Captain Buzz Hook used to be a space ranger working for the company of Star Command. His commanding officer, Andy, sent him out on a special mission to stop an infamous space crocodile. This crocodile was terrorizing the people of Rolex on a nearby planet in Sector 0185. Upon arriving on the planet, Captain Buzz Hook noticed that many of the civilians were injured and missing limbs. Many were missing hands and feet. Some were missing ears, and others eyeballs. Captain Buzz Hook couldn't imagine what kind of monster was responsible for this. As it turns out, the one responsible for the pain and suffering was ready to make his appearance before the Space Ranger. Shots were fired at the captain from behind the building. He instinctively dodged and readied the laser on his right wrist. He was aiming at a tall figure dressed up in a cowboy outfit that resembled those from planet Earth in Sector 2814. The individual stepped forward with a cocky smile on his face. "My name's Sheriff Peter Woods, but the locals around here call me Crocodile. I guess I caught the attention of the infamous Star Command." "Drop your weapon. You are under arrest." Sheriff Peter Woods dropped his gun to the ground and put his hands up. As Captain Buzz Hook approached, Woods kicked off his boot and a giant snake-like alien bit off the Space Ranger's left hand clean off. The sheriff laughed at the writhing pain the captain was in. After putting on his boots, he grabbed his gun, pointed it at the captain, and said, "Reach for the sky." Captain Buzz Hook wasn't going to take this lightly. He raised his right hand and shot a laser at the sheriff. The gun blew up in the sheriff's hands. He immediately began to fly and shouted back, "This isn't the last you've heard of the crocodile. Your days are numbered, Space Ranger. Tick-tock, tick-tock." After returning to Star Command, Commander Andy had no choice but to remove Captain Buzz Hook from active duty. Buzz wasn't going to let this end here. He had one of the Star Command droids build him a replacement hand, but not just any hand. He wanted it to be symbolic of his name. Raising his hook to the sky where his left hand used to be, Captain Buzz Hook vowed that he will one day find Sheriff Peter Woods, even if it took him days, weeks, months, years, or even to infinity and beyond. Legends are only stories of make-believe until they are proven true. On the continent of Africa exists a legend that was proven true. It was a story of a boy who was raised by gorillas and grew up to become one of the most fearless pirate captains of his era. The boy's name was Jack, but the locals called him Gorilla Jack. Jack lived among the gorillas and learned all their ways. He learned how to walk like a gorilla, how to eat like a gorilla, how to communicate like a gorilla, and how to hunt like a gorilla. There were a few things that Jack was capable of that gorillas were not. For starters, he was able to climb higher up the trees than all the toughest and strongest gorillas. He was able to not only swing from vines, but was also able to surf on the tree branches. Gorilla Jack was also able to befriend other African jungle animals that the gorillas refused to acknowledge. After many years of his homeland remaining undisrupted by outsiders, the day had finally arrived. Week after week, the gorilla chief, his father, Kerchak, would move his tribe to avoid the outsiders. The more they moved away, the closer Gorilla Jack wanted to get to see these intruders. Kerchak and his spouse Kala advised him to stay away from the outsiders. Kala knew deep down inside that this may be Jack's only way to find his way back home. Later that night, Kala spoke with Jack and shared with him the real story of his father. His father was a human and could ride the water on the back of a mighty black tree. Gorilla Jack didn't understand. Is this why he has felt different his whole life and why he felt like he didn't always belong? Was it because he was human? Kala took Jack up a tree to a spot that had a shelter at the very top. Inside the shelter was a wooden box. Kala told Jack to open the box because what he would find inside belonged to his father. Upon opening the box, Jack was filled with emotion. He found a smaller box with a circle inside. The circle had an arrow on it that began to spin around in circles when Jack held it in his hands. Jack also managed to find torn fabrics and shiny trinkets. Kala told Jack that if he wants to know more about himself and where he comes from, he may wish to speak with the outsiders. Gorilla Jack gave his mother a big hug and kiss and leaped out of the tree. He reached for a vine and began to swing his way to the outsiders. After a few months, Gorilla Jack was able to speak the language of the humans he encountered. He was also able to learn that the clothing he had belonged to a pirate, and the compass he possessed doesn't point north, but points in the direction of his true desires. He later learned that his father was the legendary captain of the Black Sparrow, the fastest ship in all the 7 seas. Gorilla Jack began to live his life freely, the way that he thought his father had intended for him. He created a Jolly Roger of a gorilla man skull, with hair and a headband that matched his own. Gorilla Jack would later become known as the most fearsome, most famous, and most fearless pirate to ever set sail. Merida is an impetuous and courageous princess, destined to one day be queen of the island of Motunui. Her adventurous spirit is seen as unbecoming of a queen, according to Merida's mother. The two struggled to get along. Instead of learning to sew, cook, and clean, Merida went out and about the island, practicing her archery skills, sailing her boat, and playing around in the dirt with her 3 brothers and pet bear named Hehe. Merida was closer to her father, Chief Fergus. He trained her to fight so that she would one day become a strong leader for her people. Chief Fergus shared with his daughter advice about finding common ground with her mother. Merida just didn't see how they could ever find common ground. Her mother was such a stickler for tradition, and Merida wanted to find her own way, her own identity, so that she could rule over her tribe the best way possible. In the middle of the night, a witch paid a visit to the island of Motunui and placed an ancient curse on Merida's mother. The queen had transformed into a bear. No one knew this had happened. When the chief awoke to find that his wife had been missing, panic began to sink in his chest. He sent out his best trackers to search the island. Merida wanted to help, but her father had brushed her off. Merida took it upon herself to prove her worth as the future leader of the island. She went to her mother's bed and found traces of fur in the blankets and scratch marks around the logs that formed their homes. Merida followed a set of animal tracks leading from the window of their hut into the forest. The sun had begun to set after the island had been searching for hours. Some speculated that the queen was kidnapped. Others believed that she ran away from the island. Merida wasn't planning on giving up anytime soon. She asked for assistance from Will-o'-the-Wisps. Soon after her plead, balls of spirit fire appeared before her. They blinked on and off, forming a trail leading to the island's volcano, which they called Mordu. After arriving at the top of the volcano, Merida was in shock to find an enormous 13-foot-tall bear towering over an older lady. Merida drew her bow and notched her arrow. The bear turned, and the two met eye to eye. Even from a distance, Merida could tell something was off. The bear was wearing her mother's favorite necklace and earrings. The old woman wasn't sweating or showed any signs of fear on her face. Without a moment's hesitation, Merida released her arrow and put down the old witch. Immediately after the witch drew her last breath, the bear before her transformed into her mother. The two quickly ran towards each other and gave a very tight embrace. It was at this moment the queen realized that her daughter was destined to be a strong future queen, and she shouldn't try to change her to fit the island's traditional customs for women. Alright guys, if you like this video, go ahead and give it a thumbs up. Comment down below which one of these character fusions was your favorite. Mine was definitely the last one in this episode. And should I do another Disney character fusion? And if so, which characters should I fuse? Let me know in the comments down below. If you're new to this channel, go ahead and hit that subscribe button. We're on the road to 1,000 subscribers. And I just need to say a big thank you to all of you guys for supporting me on my art journey. And as always, I'll see you all next Tuesday for a regularly scheduled video. You guys all take care. Have a good one. Bye-bye.